My name is Judy Ball. I live on Old Ashby Ridge, Parkersburg. I'm here to speak against the Fairness Ordinance. I love Parkersburg. I was raised here near the city park on Race and Reed Streets. I do live just outside the city limits now, but I shop, eat, go to the doctor, fill up my gas tank, and do banking inside the city limits. When people ask me where I'm from, I don't say just outside the city limits sign. I say proudly, I'm from Parkersburg. I attended Park Grade School, Washington Junior High, and PHS. I remember teachers at Park that led us in the Lord's Prayer each morning, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. No one was bullied or made fun of because they didn't participate. The 10 Commandments were posted in our classrooms. Were we damaged from reading those? But Madeline Murray O'Hara objected, and anything related to God was stripped away. My parents' generation didn't stand up. Did I say I love Parkersburg? I love the people of Parkersburg. I've invested many hours praying over the city and the schools. Along with other mothers, I have personally driven to each and every school in the entire Mid-Ohio Valley to pray and ask God to protect the students and to bless the schools. Because I have a heartfelt and deeply held conviction of what is right and wrong based on my very best understanding of God's commands and His words, please don't try to make me into a prejudiced person or a bigot. I love all people. But the sexual orientation, gender identity, SOGI supporters are trying to make me a bigot because I accept the premise that at birth we were born with a sexual identity that is unchangeable, a creation divinely ordered by the God of heaven. God created each of us, male and female, according to the scriptures. Having lived here for 63 years, I have not personally seen unkind acts or even discrimination against my friends or neighbors. My friends are kind and respectful to all members of the community. Do we rewrite laws for a small percentage of people who feel underserved? I don't believe so. Should we love them? Absolutely. Do they deserve respect? Yes, they do. Should the citizens of Parkersburg tolerate them being mistreated? Never. But we don't need to open up all public accommodations under every imaginable scenario to prove that we are decent citizens and neighbors. It's not a distant leap to see lawsuits filed if this ordinance were to pass to force us to allow the restrooms and locker rooms to be open to people who feel like they want to be in there. The authors of the Fairness Ordinance were very, very clever. By including our highly revered veterans and our beautiful disabled citizens, it would seem that Christian citizens are indeed bigots, but we are not. I started working with disabled individuals when I was a sophomore at Parkersburg High. I was involved in the very first Special Olympics ever held in the state of West Virginia, and it was at Parkersburg High. After graduating from WVU, I worked for several years at Colin Anderson Center. I am also extremely proud of my dad, a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. My husband is a Navy vet. So don't conflate the real agenda put forth in the Fairness Ordinance with the needs of our vets and the disabled. They are not the same. I'm proud of my Christian heritage. I ask you not to force me into giving up my rights, the right to worship as I choose, with the family of faith I choose, and my right to live out my deeply held convictions. The Religion Exception Clause, Section 150.5, says that people who teach belief or doctrine are safe in their positions.
Mrs. Bull, we're running out of time.
Well, mine's
Wrap it
shorter
up,
than
please.
some of them.
You're running out of time. You have a 5-minute limit.
This is a 5-minute speech. I practiced it. What if you don't teach doctrines or beliefs? What if you are the secretary or the cook or the janitor for your church, preschool, or daycare? Can these positions be challenged for discrimination purposes? Let the churches in the Mid-Ohio Valley rise to this challenge. Let's show the fairness people we are not haters, but that we will stand up for what we believe in. You were elected to represent the people in your district. The slippery slope of decline that has carried us further and further away from the founding of this nation has not made the moral fabric of our community stronger. It has continued to erode the families and the schools. It can be seen in the drug epidemic and the harm caused in children's lives. Let's not contribute to the decline of our beloved Parkersburg by passing an ordinance that leaves us wide open to lawsuits and increased conflict and weakens the much-needed guidance and morality provided by the faith-based community. Which side will you stand on, council members? Unfortunately, my parents did not stand up to fight for prayer in school. But my grandchildren can never say that I did not fight to protect them from the SOGI agenda.
Mrs. Bowles.
People
I'm sorry.
frequently say that
No.
we cannot legislate morality.
You're out of time.
I have one
Even
more
with the
sentence.
brief interruption.
Excuse me, I have one more sentence.
Finish one sentence and
I
you
think
need
the
to.
first lady had at least 7 or 8 minutes. whatever.
No, I'm sorry, I'm keeping close watch of everybody's time.
I'm sorry, I'm reading slower because I'm dry. But I ask you, as elected leaders, do you have the authority to legislate what the vast majority of your constituents consider to be immorality? Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Russell Wooten, and I live in Vienna, and I'm here to speak against the ordinance. Our family moved to Parkersburg in 1993 when Financial Management Surgery, which is formerly Public Debt, moved their offices to Washington, D.C., from Washington, D.C. to Parkersburg. My wife and I have been retired now for over 5 years and consider this area our home. Parkersburg is a wonderful place to live. I have not been denied anything or mistreated in any way. This is the best place that I have ever lived, and I have lived in a lot of places in America. I have been here longer than anywhere else I have lived my life, but for the last 17 years at Public Debt, I was president of the National Treasury Employees Union. In this position, I represented all the bargaining unit employees in Parkersburg and some in Washington, D.C. When we arrived here, we were told that blacks represented about 1/2 of the population, and I'm sure it was less than that at Public Debt. I was elected 6 consecutive times by the employees to represent them. There certainly wasn't any kind of prejudice showed toward me. In fact, I had overwhelming support, and everyone that I ran against was of the white race. But most importantly, every grievance that was filed during my time as president had to come through my office for review to be determined if there was a violation of the labor management contract. We never received a grievance from anywhere during my entire time in that office that claimed a violation of the contract due to being treated unfairly because of sexual preferences. Not a one. Discrimination of any kind is wrong, and we should all do what we can to prevent it. I certainly know prejudice when I see it. I grew up in North Carolina in the 50s and 60s, a time when racial discrimination was a way of life. It was the norm, and I experienced it in many different arenas. But living in this area has been enjoyable and very pleasant. While there is no perfect place this side of heaven, you do not need to make any changes. There is nothing wrong that needs fixing here. It has proven to be a wonderful place to raise a family for us. Our son grew up here with many memorable experiences and great friends. It is a well-kept secret, and God has blessed this city, and his holy covenants have given us everything we need to live an abundant life. I am not in favor of this non-discrimination ordinance, and I respectfully request that it be tabled. And may God continue to bless America.
Thank you. My name is Mike Lamb. I live at 305 8th Avenue. And first of all, I want to say to the City Council and the Mayor, thank you all very much. It was put in the newspaper, and I read, it's too bad that certain City Council members don't have the guts to lead. Followed by a comment, it's too bad certain City Council members don't have the guts to lead. By the way, that was not written by the hatred group that's being painted as hatred and bigoted group. That was by Fairness West Virginia members. And I think that's unfair to you all. You all did take a stand. I want to publicly thank you. One of the other things, and it's a matter of fact finding, it's interesting to me, Mr. Azinger spoke last meeting, brought out some facts about states and their economies. He was told he was a liar in the meeting. I've got the comments here, the public comments, and it's amazing. The group that says this is all about bigotry, hatred, and hypocrisy, bullying. Who's doing the bullying? I dare you to read the comments in the newspaper and see who's doing the bullying. I dare you to do some fact finding and find out who's doing the bullying. I've been pastor for over 30 years. I've conducted at least 4 funerals of those who died of AIDS. Their families asked me to. They personally asked me to. I counseled with them. Twice I've been asked to be a pallbearer at their services. There's folks sitting here right now that had family members die of AIDS. They lived a homosexual life. And yet I'm painted as being a hate monger, a Bible thumper, an effing Bible thumper by the people that say we're for diversity. Now let me get down to the real issue. The real issue is this. They want to force us to believe what they believe and us not have a voice. That, my friend, is the real issue at hand. Let me read a comment by from the newspaper. The religious right of whom Mazinger is a prominent member somehow believes that affording equal rights to all citizens is somehow threatening or taking away our religious liberty. I'll skip some comments. He goes on to say, the remarks of the public foreman were a perfect example of why NDO is needed in Parkersburg. I didn't make the last meeting, and I'm sorry, and by the way, I apologize that we're taking so much of your time. I really do. I wish this thing would just die and we could get on with life. There are bigger issues in Parkersburg. But as long as it's there, we've got to fight. 61 times in the first meeting, and I may be off a few, but you can look at the tape and count it. Mr. President, you had to silence them. You had to silence them when Mr. Mazinger tried to speak, and yet they're saying we want an equal voice, we want diversity. No, they don't want diversity. This same fellow that wrote their hatred, bigotry, and hypocrisy in full view. Both my parents are here tonight. My dad will be 82 this week. My mother's 79. He still works at R&J Trucking. And the very fellow that wrote that comment, by the way, he hired him and still employs him. My mother's a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway. The same fellow that wrote this, by the way, just happens to be a family member. After the election, and by the way, he's been here for every meeting for Fairness West Virginia. After the election, he and his wife wrote our family, all of us, a letter letting us know they were disowning us because we didn't vote the way they voted. They did not come to the Thanksgiving feast, which we always do. Christmas, they didn't come. My parents bought them gifts. They bought them none. When my mom and dad, who were up in years, we would call that age discrimination, I think. When they were up in years, took the gifts by their house. They wouldn't answer the door. They called them. They answered the phone. They're upstairs. They refused to come down to the door because they didn't vote the way they wanted to. By the way, they're one of the group that's backing this whole ordinance. If you don't think, by the way, they're not against bullying. They're all for bullying. Discrimination, by the way, the same couple hired my son, who was born with spina bifida, who they also have written public comments on Facebook that all children with handicaps ought to be eliminated. And they hired him at $5 an hour because he couldn't get a job, but they hired him to do manual labor for $5 an hour for the summer so he could save money to go to college. By the way, he did finish college, which is irrelevant other than, you know what, folks that are born with disabilities can achieve some things. But this, and again, I'm against the ordinance, and I admonish you and City Council to really look at it. Who's doing the booing in the meetings? Who's shouting people down? Who's writing all the comments? By the way, I'm sure if you were to pose, in fact, what they didn't realize was they took everybody off of Facebook except one family member they missed. And I've seen the personal comments they've written to some of you blasting other council members because you don't believe the way they believe. Please, I admonish you, protect our rights. Protect the rights of all citizens of Parkersburg. Vote against the NDO.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, my name is Walter Bonnell. I'm a resident of the Parkersburg vicinity. I've lived here a bigger part of my life since I was a teenager, and my family is all here. Well, I've been here once before.
Need an address for the record, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Currently, I'm living at Jordan Lane, Mineral Wells.
Thank you.
Quick 3 things I'd like to bring out. Number one, as a younger man, when I lived here, I'm an epileptic. I went to apply for a job. And when I went to apply for a job, I filled out the application the way I should, completely and honestly. The manager looked at the application. He says, "You've got epilepsy?" I said, "Yes, sir, but it's controlled by medication." He says, "Get out." I said, "Can I ask why?" "Get out!" That's the way he laid it to me. I got up and left. I wouldn't want to work for the man. And I didn't leave Parkersburg and didn't even think of leaving Parkersburg. I went somewhere else and got myself another job, and I've held down as many as 2 and 3 jobs at a time. Okay? If I can do it, anybody else can. Doing this here, I have raised a family here in the Parkersburg vicinity. They graduated here. I've got several grandchildren here, only 39 grandchildren. So I spend a lot of time with the children. Now, people say here that they got rudely mistreated about getting a resident. Okay? I am a manager of an apartment complex. Have been since 2000. We have yet to deny a tenant that has good credit and decent paying job and has no felony record a residence. To this day, we have accepted gays, whatever, whether they're married or not, they've been accepted so long as they met the other equivalents. And when we bring them in, we tell them, these are the rules, abide by them like everybody else, and everybody will do fine. If they don't, they're evicted. Simple as that. No partying. Why? Because we've got small children we need to think of. And I look at those children as my own children. Okay? And I think of my grandchildren very highly. I spent 3 hours today out in the heat today with my grandchild, working with him just to learn and play baseball. Okay? Still got my work done. This here is something that we don't need. We don't need to have people thinking that there's no way that we're being treated fairly. I didn't think I was being treated fairly by that gentleman, but it was not a reason to leave Parkersburg, and that's not the reason people do leave Parkersburg. I worked for the census 3 different times, and we found that the population just gradually, slowly moves to the central part of the United States. Period. There's all there is to it. So I'm asking you to consider this here agenda that you've got before you and deny it for the benefit of all the children, for the benefit of people that try to stay on and live. And first apartment I ever had, the first friends I ever had was a colored couple that lived right down the street. They thought me and my wife were brother and sister. We'd just gotten married. They were one of the first colored families here. And they were one of our best friends throughout the rest of their life. I thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
My name's Andrew Lamb. I live at 902 Lubeck Avenue, Parkersburg, West Virginia. I grew up in Parkersburg my whole life, and it was a great place to live, always equal and fair. I graduated and I moved to the Chicagoland area where I went to college, and then afterwards I moved to New Jersey for an internship. And I couldn't decide if I wanted to stay in the big city or come back home. But I remember how much I loved Parkersburg. And that's the reason I decided to move back home and with my family. And I got a job when I came to Parkersburg at a pretty big apartment complex. I was a maintenance man. And this apartment complex probably housed 300 to 400 people. And there was LGBT people that lived there already. There were people of that gender that would come in and fill out applications. And my whole time that I was there, no one was ever evicted because they were part of the LGBT. No one was ever denied an application or denied an apartment because they were a part of that. The only reason people were ever denied was because simply they couldn't afford it. That would be the only reason they got evicted. From my perspective as a citizen of Parkersburg, this NDO, this ordinance, isn't something that's going to make it fair. It's going to make it harder on these people that own these apartment complexes. They have it hard enough as it is, just getting different types of people in there that wouldn't be the tenants that they would want to rent to. It's just going to jam up our courts and make things more difficult for them. So I encourage the city council to protect these people's rights, the landowners' rights, the people that are servicing to these others. And my second point is I am a youth pastor in the area, and I have students that will be graduating this evening from Parkersburg High School, those that graduated last night from South Parkersburg High School. And I can tell you for a fact that these young people, that they are considering, leaving the area. And it is not because of this ordinance. It's simply a job problem. And the job problem hasn't become because we don't have an MDO. If you can look at the facts and the stats, be more than happy to give them to you, of the cities that have passed it in West Virginia. No business has been added there. So, to me, it's completely irrelevant to the real issue that's here at hand. All we're doing is giving the other side a hammer to beat us with. So, City Council, I encourage you to protect our rights.
Thank you.
My name is Cleveland Rutherford. I live on 45 Center Street, Parkersburg, West Virginia. I'm not from here. I live here. I moved here in October the 10th, 1992 from Savannah, Georgia. My in-laws got transferred from the Washington, D.C. area to the West Virginia area. We came from Georgia. I'm from old school. I remember the Jim Crow law. Don't talk about prejudice or equality or equalism, or don't talk about that. I remember going to movie theaters where I had to go through the back door. I wasn't allowed to go to the front door. I remember when you had the blacks here and the white there. I remember how unequally people felt, and they pushed it, and it was a law. Then the equal rights law came about. Now, we're in a situation where people are people. I'm not here to gay bash. I got gay friends. I got buddies, they gay, and they know, and I'm a minister. I don't preach to them, but the truth is the truth, You can't push an issue. I don't want a man to go in the bathroom with my wife. I don't want a man to go in, you don't need to make no comment. I don't want a man to go into the bathroom with my niece, with my grandmother, your mother, your grandmother, your auntie. I mean, if that's the case, I could put a wig on my head and act like I'm gay and just go in and do what I want to do. That's not right. That is not right. I mean, it's not an issue. Give them houses. Give them what they want. But it's only 2%. 2%. 2% that's going to move us. I'm not here to be prejudiced against anybody. I know what the Word of God says. The question is who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that you was like that? I'm just here to say, I'm a man. I got a wife. The words say that we should cleave to one another. I'm not here to gay bash anybody. At the end of the day, when you do your business, you are who God created you to be. You will never be anything else other than what God created you to be. And for us to enact the ordinance to accommodate, that's not right. Amen?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Carpenter, thank you. I'm to speak against, Jay Starcher from Homewood Road, Parkersburg, West Virginia. I'm here against the NDO, and like the gentleman before me, he mentioned I believe it was the Klan rallies back in the late 80s, early 90s, and I remember those, and those folks came in from outside the community. And I remember I was a freshman at Marietta College when that was going on, and my best friend at the time was a black man, young black man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my family and I, we took him in, we made sure he was safe during that time frame, and that we stayed off the streets of Marietta and Parkersburg and Belpre at the time, and that passed. But those people aren't from this community, okay? I've grown up here, I've been in this community since 1974, and that type of hatred just doesn't exist. I work with people from the LBGT community, and there's no prejudice. It just doesn't, we don't permit that around here. We take care of each other, okay? This NDO is not needed, okay? It is not beneficial. We've heard things around finances and it'll bring jobs. It's simply not true. It's simply not true. West Virginia's problems have to do with other things, our tax basis, litigation, okay? The environmental constraints on top of the EPA. All right, there are a lot of other things and issues we've got. There's drug problems we have in our community that's ripping communities and families apart, and we're focusing on this. This is another progressive item that will do nothing but tear down our community. And I ask you not to support. Thank you.
Thank you.